This is the only video on this subject I'm going to make in person. Religion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a subject, history, something I couldn't possibly know. I'm going to make some reasoning for what happened at the time, put it into a story that's a story and literal, just to confuse you. I'm going to wrap it off with some circular reasoning, and then I'm going to let you chew at it. I almost forgot. Once I've finished it off with circular reasoning, determined everything to be true, I'm going to look for evidence. The beginning, well, it doesn't start until the end of the story, so I'll jump right in with Bill and Ben. You see, Bill was a friendly fellow. He did lots of good things for the community. He was a bit of a sceptic, and he made him popular. And he invented things like the wheel, and he managed to harness fire, and everyone loved it and appreciated it so much. And his cousin, you know, a relative of some relative in the past somewhere, he just accepted everything without question. He said, well, everything, it just happens, doesn't it? And they didn't get along. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they don't get along. Right. Ben, he wasn't popular by any means, and he was jealous of Bill. He wanted Bill's popularity and, you know, all the fame and acclaim that he had, and the harem of women that followed after him. So he thought to himself, why don't I make something up to say that it wasn't Bill who did all these seemingly amazing things? It was the dog. And everyone asked him, what dog? And Ben, having heard Bill's discoveries, you know, talk of the town, right, he knew something about light. And he said, oh, it's a colour you can't see. The dog is a colour you can't see. And everyone asked him, well, where is this colour? And he says, well, it's in between blue and green. And everyone's pointing out, well, is it there? Is it there? He said, no, it's in between it all. You can't see it. You can't see it, but it's there. Ben went around telling everyone, well, you can't see X-rays, so you can't see the colour of the dog. And some people thought, well, it's pretty reasonable to believe that, and believed him. And eventually Bill and Ben, they died of old age. Well, Ben didn't, he disappeared somewhere. And things went on, and people who were sceptical and still wanted to learn and question things and work out how things were the way they were, lived happy and prosperous and long lives. And all the people who still believed what Ben said found themselves ridiculed all their lives, and they weren't happy, and they were always finding some solstice in something what Ben said. And then all of a sudden everything started to shake, and the earth started coming apart, and all the light went out, and all the people died. Ben, who hadn't died, he'd just disappeared, he was there. Ben was there, outside of the galaxy, looking at something that looked like a walnut whip, closing in into the centre. And in the centre, it was dark, and he couldn't see. It was like there was a hole there. You could say it was like a dark hole, and it was sucking everything in. And then it gradually started to speed up, and it was happening everywhere around him in other swirly things and circular things and star-shaped things. And it started sucking the dark holes into the dark holes, and eventually there was this one big giant dark hole, and he was there observing this, completely amazed at what he was seeing, and until eventually this really small, strong dark hole exploded. The explosion, it surprised him, and he blinked and he missed quite a bit of it, and all these clouds started making physical things, and all of it was physical, and eventually he saw again this walnut whip after lots and lots of time, and that chemical stuff it started becoming organic, and then it carried on building and making copies of itself and duplicating, and then it started living and duplicating and getting more complex, and he suddenly found himself looking at him and stark realisation in him that if he was down there on that planet, then he couldn't possibly be up there, and disappear. The explosion, it surprised him, and he blinked and he missed quite a bit of it.